Mission Knock and Roll.
And welcome back. KTCR, Kill the Cat Radio. Back with episode 9 on this dark and stormy night. Because we killed the cat. Curiosity. The satisfaction brought it back. Really proud to introduce our next guest. Let me ask you guys a question. How would you feel if one of your favorite painters from history was on your speed dial? Wouldn't it be great to just text Picasso or Klimt or Van Gogh anytime you'd like? Well, that's how I feel, having someone like our guest tonight as a friend and an ally out here in the art world. And I'm talking about my good friend, Jesse Mccloskey. Now, he's a humble man. In fact, so humble that upon our first meeting, he didn't even reveal that he was a painter. Then as time reeled on, he finally confessed about his life's work and invited me over to his studio. And what I discovered there was beyond words. Unbelievably sized paintings, random colors, a style so unique. I'd never seen art like this before. You can find his work online nowadays at his website, listed below. But in those heady days of 2014, he barely had a digital imprint at all. That was when I decided to bring over a bunch of filmmakers and do a mini documentary on Jesse's life and times. It's called A Comic Alarm, and you can find it on YouTube. If you type in that title and both of our names, it'll come right up. I couldn't have been more proud to be part of Mccloskey's world. After all, who wouldn't want a modern-day Picasso to be just a phone call away? Jesse Mccloskey and I sat down here at KTCR headquarters in Brooklyn to discuss his art, the current state of pandemic affairs, and what it really takes to live the painter's life. So I came up with this idea, and have you ever heard of a guy named Studs Terkel?
Yeah, yes.
The great journalist.
Yeah.
I
wasn't sure if he was a sports announcer or he was a journalist.
He was a journalist, and he was in that realm of those. You know, he kind of interviewed like everybody, like all the rich and all the interesting people of the time. Then he got bored, and he just started interviewing his landlord and his plumber. And he wrote this whole book called Working, and it was all about just everybody who's working as an entity in New York.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, and I at first I was like, I'm going to start interviewing just everybody, like my mom, like my friends, because I have such fun friends.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to have such, at least before, especially during the pandemic, we had so many great people who were living just in our proximity.
Yeah, I know.
You know, how great it was.
I know.
And then I said, and then my friend, it was Kristen Dombeck, and you remember Kristen, of course.
Yeah.
She said, you're doing a Studs Terkel thing is what you're doing. And I'm like, what? And it turned out. So anyways.
Yeah.
So hey, please, do us a favor. I mean, I know some of it's going to be redundant. Do you want some more coffee?
I'm good right now. I'm good.
You sure? Because
I'm good. Yeah.
Once we're in it, I mean, we can take breaks. I mean, it's digital, so it doesn't really matter. Thank God, the beauty of the digital life. So go ahead and introduce yourself to people, because like may ask you some questions that we already know. But
my name's Jesse Mccloskey. I'm a painter from New York.
Right. And how long have you been in New York City for?
I moved here in 1987.
87.
Fall of 87, yes.
That is a totally different New York City than anybody is probably used to at this time.
Yeah.
And what part of exactly did you move into?
I moved into the Sloan YMCA house on 9th Avenue and 34th Street.
The Sloan?
Yeah.
Repeat that again for me.
It was called the Sloan House. It was on 9th Avenue and 34th Street.
And is that still there? Is that still...
The building's still there, but now it's I think it's a private residence now,
of course.
Or something. But
what was
at the
it
time,
like?
It was a single-room occupancy building.
Okay.
And the 8th floor, Parsons had rented out for graduate students. So they gave me this tiny room. Had nothing. Had like a bed that was like bolted to the wall, and it was a desk bolted to the wall,
and
a window, and that was it.
You couldn't even move the desk out from the wall?
No, it was a tiny space. It was literally the size of this desk twice wide and right there. It was basically it was a small cell, but it was neat and it was clean. And the only problem was because you had to use a bathroom down the hallway, and people were in and out, going in and out of the floors and stuff, so you never knew who you were going to meet in the bathroom.
Oh my God! So it was like, it was a bathroom it was like a rooming house, sort of.
It was like the 7th floor, the whole building, and the 7th and 9th floor were definitely SROs, but we had the 8th, so sometimes people would go to the wrong floor and they'd wander around, and it was in the 80s. No one, there wasn't any security. You could just it wasn't like.
And what are the cross streets over there at the time?
It was between 8th and 9th Avenue. So we were right in the corner of 9th Avenue and 34th.
Wow. So that was not a good neighborhood at that time.
No, I'll never forget the first day I was there. I was waiting in line to sign in, and this guy comes running down the street like a businessman, with like glasses, and he has his shirt open, and his jacket in his hand, something very disheveled, and he's booking it down 9th Avenue, like flying so fast.
Yeah.
Seconds later, a girl comes completely naked.
Oh my God!
Completely naked, screaming bloody murder, coming after this guy, screaming about money or something. and he was so. I've never seen the guy look so terrified in my life.
Right.
And I was like, wow, I was in New York now, I was only there like a few minutes.
But where were you coming from though before that?
Literally, I had just gotten off the bus or whatever it was. I don't know.
What town were you coming from?
Plimpton, Massachusetts.
Because you're a New Englander like I am.
Yeah.
Right, and you grew up in that kind of spooky. That's why you're quoting Poe.
Yeah.
When we first start, because you're a fellow New Englander.
Yeah.
Fellow spooky mists, and we'll get into your themes later. Obviously, because there's plenty of that going on in your work too. So, I mean, that's a completely different kind of New York City. Yeah. So it was just absolute chaos. I mean,
it was very scary. I remember the first time I saw razor wire. I'd never seen that before.
Razor wire.
Like you see barbed wire in the back on the farm. I'd seen it. Because I grew up on a horse farm. But I'd never seen razor wire before, and I've come to New York. I'm like, oh my God, it really
just everywhere. It
was crazy. And I was at the first few months, I was very depressed when I first came here. But then little by little, the city began to grow on me. But at first, the first few months were tough to be here.
Yeah,
so I was right off the farm.
I mean, really just coming right off the farm. Now, were you associated with Parsons at all at the time?
No, I just got into grad school, and I just moved up here.
And your grad school for painting, for fine art,
right?
It was back in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts at the Swain School of Design.
Swain.
Yeah, I got it at 87. So then, the next fall, I went to New York. Because that was what you were supposed to do in those days.
I mean, in the 80s, late 80s.
That was the trajectory. If you're a figurative painter in New York, Massachusetts, you go to New York and get a studio. And that's what we all did. So figurative painting, describe that to me, because I'm a little rusty on my art history about how the difference between it. Because is it a matter of style or medium or genre? Well, I guess the school I went to would be described as a figurative painting school, I guess. But that's not really true, because my school was definitely had a feeling it's just painting. Everything, it's all about form. Everything's about form, right? I mean, plastic form. That's what you're trying to do. Form in space, right? That's everything. So, we didn't, differentiate abstract painting from figurative painting, but it was definitely based in sort of like a Matisse kind of school of like painting the model. And then once you sort of had those basics down, the idea was that you could pretty much do whatever you want, but you really want to understand painting first, And it was the greatest thing that happened to me. Swain completely changed my life in every way, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Wow.
It gave me a whole new set of eyes, it gave me a window on the world. It just blew my mind in every way.
But when you were young, were you always in the arts in that sense? Or were you
I was a very strict, devout Catholic. I was a very tortured Catholic until I was like 13, 14. I was terrified all the time. I was always
fear of
terrified.
God.
Fear of going to hell.
Wow.
I could make it to confession on Saturday at 5. Confess to some old man in a booth. It's such the most humiliating thing in the world.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
I mean, it's the same sin every week, right? You're jerking off, right? That's the sin.
Did you confess the sin, though?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, it was every Saturday. I had to go in there,
and these priests are just listening to this kid talk about jerking off.
Can you imagine what it must do to the priest too? I mean, that's a weird experience. Just listening to people come in and tell you, how many times can that go on? It's got to be weird. From the other side of the fence. For me, it's humiliating, but for him, it's going to be
not all priests are bad, but I mean, I'm sure there's like 80% of them, but still, the non-bad ones still have to listen to kids talking about jerking off. It must
just be a weird experience.
That's got to be wild. Yeah. So that brings up a whole slew of issues. Now, did you, when you were coming out of Swain and headed to New York, did you have a vision of where you wanted your painting style to go? Because I mean, this is a real audio medium. Now we made a movie which we'll talk about later, but to demonstrate that stuff.
I wanted to paint like the Italians. I wanted to paint like Tintoretto, like Veronese. I wanted to paint. That's how I was.
Yeah, the Caravaggio's there on the list.
Caravaggio showing the far end, but on the near end, that kind of Giotto. I had that kind of big form, but mostly Veronese, and he was my man.
Wow. Describe him. What was his first name? Describe that guy again.
Pablo Veronese. I think it's like.
Okay.
I'm
not familiar with him.
You know these paintings. There's a couple at the Frick, and he's very famous, and he just does these big muscle car. Paintings.
These are oil.
Big oil paintings. Big lush sort of muscular oil paintings with gigantic people and and form and space, and they're very elastic, and they move in all different directions. And I just have always there's a lot of breath in them, a lot of space.
And so do you still have some of those early works that you still?
Oh yeah. I was looking through them, a lot of them recently. I have them all rolled up, because I can't store them anywhere. But no, I have a lot of that stuff.
And you used oil at the time.
Yeah, I was using strictly big oil paintings. Yeah, and very ribbon-like. I was painting a very kind of big ribbon form, trying to build form in space.
And so you get down here, you get to New York City, you're living in Manhattan, you're over on 34th Street, crazy people are running around naked, there's razor wire everywhere, you're painting in a small place with a small desk locked to like the thing with a shared bathroom, shared bathroom down the hallway, right, and you're trying to go for the Italian Renaissance,
that's what
but here in 1986.
That's what I was going to do.
Now, what expectations did you have about New York that were fulfilled?
Well, it was always just, going to the Met and just seeing everything so big, just always, anything you wanted to see.
Metropolitan Museum of Art.
You go to the Met and you could just get your mind blown over and over again by all the old dead people.
Oh, my God,
the great dead ones, and there they are all up, it's just over and over again. And the great thing about painting for me is always that, painting always looks exactly the same and different at the same time. And that's the paradox of painting. That's what turns me on about painting so much. It always looks the same and it always looks different. Yeah, I don't know how it does it, but it does. It's that great Bruegel painting of the hay, the hay wain orders. It's like that big hay field they're cutting. It's this crazy abstract shape in the painting. It's just, everyone knows this is one of the famous paintings. But it's just every time I look at it, it looks the same and different. It just blows my mind.
So because you've been, obviously because you do it, but you're such an enthusiast of not only just of what's going on in the art world, but also of the painters. Your inspiration to other people is magnetic. And I've seen it happen with other people when you talk about it to them, when we get talking about it. So when you got to New York, you got access to all of these different fine institutions of art. And what else? What about culturally speaking in 1986? Did you find that any of that kind of assisted with you as well? Or
I was very secluded when I first came here. I really had a path, and not on me, like I hadn't thought it out. I didn't really go to clubs or anything like that. I was not that I tried to, not avoid anything. I just didn't have any money, and I didn't know anything, so I just didn't go anywhere. I was complete. No, I didn't know anything. I don't know anything about music. I didn't pretend to. I didn't know any club, anything like that. So
the Mud Club would have been going on at that time.
It would have been a lot of fun, but I didn't know. I knew nothing about music.
30 blocks down, you got like the Mud Club going. Talking Heads is playing over there.
I guess so. The CB's wasn't far from there either.
No, right. CB's is just on the Bowery right there. So
I didn't know anything about it.
What did you find that kind of worried you or scared you about when you were here in New York City, or if anything at all?
I didn't. I got jumped a couple times. I got beat up a couple times.
Wow.
But I didn't. Nothing really scared me. Like I wasn't scared to be here that way. Not like that. No, I wasn't frightened for my personal safety.
You didn't have that kind of cultural, like, oh my God, I'm a farm boy and now these guys are super tough.
I just noticed they looked at me and realized I didn't have any money. That was the thing. It didn't matter how homeless the guy, whatever, they size you up instantly, and this kid doesn't have anything, so they left me alone, And if anybody did talk to you crazy, I realized very quickly, just have no reaction. Don't get angry. Don't get happy. Don't react. Just have no reaction, and they'll just move on to someone else. And that always worked for me in that situation. Because in New York in the '80s, there was a lot more crazy homes. Constantly. You had to have. I'm always shocked when I see people on their phones now. I know we still talk about that. Like back in the '80s, you couldn't do that. They get killed. You
or having their MacBook Pro out. Like,
crazy.
I was just doing that yesterday.
Last night, I'm pulling my bike into my apartment, and some guy jumped on my bike and tried to ride it away.
Whoa!
Yeah, and I had to wrestle the bike away from him at my front door. I'm like, whoa, the '80s are back.
Whoa! So what neighborhood is this again?
I live on First, between 22nd and 23rd, and I was like, my bike was touching me, like that close to the door. I'm just unlocking the door. The guy gets on the bike and starts to ride away, and I have to wrestle it away from him. Yeah.
Wow.
Huge guy.
80s are back.
Yeah.
80s are back. Pandemic.
But I guess I remember from the 80s. I grabbed my bike back and told him to go fuck off, and he ran away.
You like grab it and threaten him. Yeah, now the painter is fighting back.
Exactly.
After all the years, it just gets. Watch out, people. Watch out. Don't fuck with the painters. So that's great. So then you were coming up there. So where did it move from there? So then you went from that and you just started hauling off. Did you start getting gallery work immediately, like in the sense of shows or any of that stuff?
No.
How long did it take you before you were able to? And this is great for painters too who are coming up. How long did it take you from the initial time when you felt you were comfortable? When here in New York City, you felt a little bit comfortable in your style, and when you started showing.
Well, my teachers the one that I really love, quite a few of them I really love, but one of them always used to say that, you don't really know you're a painting until it's hung on the wall by itself, and it kind of has to live by itself, So that'd take a long time for me to get there. I would say after grad school, we were always doing a show. There was always a bar we were at we could hang paintings there.
Okay, so there were bars that
all the time. Okay. That was always sort of this. There was when they moved the Cedar Tavern to 10th Street around the corner from where it used to be back in wherever it was. A lot of painters still went there, so we used to go there, and I'd have shows there, landscape shows. But as far as gallery goes, I wasn't associated with a gallery until 2001 or something like that.
But but you were more like underground kind of.
So there was always a pop-up space. Yeah, clubs. I got a lot of clubs would ask me to make paintings on the walls. I had theater companies ask me to paint Greek gardens for plays, which was always fun.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, they would just give you a budget, and you just go there and you some dungeon, fucking theater, and you go down in the basement and you draw a Greek garden for them to perform a play on.
So money was non-existent then.
No,
coming through the painting.
Oh no, not at all. No,
that was not
it's never been. I've never made any money as a painter.
Wow. Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
I mean, you're not in your 90s yet. So.
No, I'm not in my 90s.
You're not at the Grandma Moses level yet of painting money and getting some cash. No. So so really you didn't have any gallery work until the aughts.
Yeah. I just the 90s. I did a few record album covers and stuff for Virgin. That was some good money.
Oh, that's cool.
That was cool. That was good.
Wow. Do you remember some of the bands?
Yeah, I did the Geraldine Fibbers. Not their first album, but I did the second, third album, I think, and a bunch of stuff.
I've got to check that out. Oh wow! So you did Geraldine Fibbers, and then who
I did Evangelista. Did a lot of the work for. That too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh wow! So were these bands that you knew, just from the New York scene?
Yeah, my girlfriend, my partner now, still one of her friends growing up, Mika Ray. Yeah. That's right. One of her closest friends when they were growing up, Carla Boslich, was in Ethel Meatplow, and so I knew Carla from Nika, of course. And when they came to New York, Carla had Ethel Meatplow, and I think I did some work for them. And then I did a bunch of work for the Geraldine Fibbers, like I said.
Wow, cool.
Did all the posters, not all of it, but I did a number of their posters. I did a number of their records and some other promotional material. And then when Carla went solo, I did some of her Evangelista ones. And one of the pictures I have was she just took off one of my paintings and somebody tattooed it on their arm. It was pretty wild.
Wait, one of your paintings was tattooed? Wow, that's
some guy
great.
In Portugal. It was pretty cool.
That
was
cool.
Crazy. So that was fun.
That's cool. So all right. So then, so as we're leading through the time period here, so things are changing, and you're just surviving. What other kind of jobs were you even getting?
I had a lot of weird jobs. I did a lot of art handling. I was bartending. I did this restaurant manager. I got paid to sit by people's deathbeds for a while. That was a job I did.
What is that? What kind of work?
Well, somebody paid me. It was on one occasion or two. I can't remember. They paid me to sit with someone who was dying because they didn't have time.
Oh my god! I can't even believe that's an actual thing.
Well, it was sort of I was happy to do it.
Sure.
They need the money.
But were they just unconscious like that?
No, they were there. They were talking to me.
Oh, so you were just sort of
I was like a hospice
worker.
I was basically doing hospice work.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So I've done that, and then but mostly it was bartending and anything you could imagine.
To me, it's fascinating how many when really talented artists of any sort, what the jobs they have to do in the States. Because a guy like you, if you were in any other place, especially places like Paris, you would be well recognized and well respected for what you do. I mean, I know it's us Americans over here on this side of the pond.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe London would be harder to crack, but definitely the French and the Spanish, and it's certainly and definitely in Asia and there's such a much more of a caring environment to creative people, I think.
Yeah, it's funny. I've gotten so used to not expecting anything that it's just I don't even think about it anymore. It's strange. If I, it's yeah, it's when it does happen. I'm always so surprised that at this point.
Surprised by what? When you
get? When just if I have a show or something and people come to it, it's always surprising.
Oh, yeah.
I'd always it's right. It's people want to see them. It's it's great. I just. I'm still compelled to make them. It doesn't matter if they get shown or not. As long as I just have to keep making them.
Yeah, but you're one of the more prolific painters I know.
I have to do it.
And
all
also
the
third we've interviewed so far for KTCR, so that's cool. So obviously I have a penchant for the painter people in my life. Yeah, so finally you get the gallery. Things start to change. Okay, now what gallery did you finally? Do you feel?
I was showing with Claire Oliver on 26th Street for the Claire Oliver Gallery. That was,
what a trip! That's a couple. It's like right down the way on 26th. You were living on 34th so many years ago, and now. Yeah. I mean, that must have been such an interesting moment to see like the past and where you were at that moment. And that, what year was this?
I started showing there in 2011, actually.
Wow. Okay, so it was even further on.
Yeah,
so
I think I may have had something with her before that, but I knew I was signed on as an art. I signed a contract with that gallery in 2011. That's right.
Right. And how many? So what would you think? How many pieces of work do you think you start either working on, completing and finishing and completing to your liking, in say a month's period? What would you generally say about?
It takes me 7 to 8 months to make a picture, so
one picture.
Yeah.
Okay, but do you have multiple going at once?
I have like 4 or 5 going at a time.
Yeah, keep the muses jealous.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's always good.
And whenever you want to abandon something, it's easy to do.
Yeah, because you have other lovers.
Exactly.
You have other lovers. It's like that. Yeah.
Somebody else needs a spanking. So
you gotta go over to that side.
Yeah.
So 7 to 8 months. No kidding.
Yeah, I think yeah.
So then in a year.
Well, the problem, I'm sorry, but the problem is not the problem with not selling anything at such a long time, or even having a gallery, is that they end up in the corner, and eventually you start looking at them going, here could be a little better if I just slapped you around. Right. So you take it out and you start reworking it, and then then you painting your head, and if you thought you had done, you're still rearranging.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to.
Oh, that's so funny. That is so funny. So
it's better
keep the muses jealous.
Yeah.
Keep the muses jealous.
Yeah.
And God, have you even tried to count your works? How many finished works?
I don't know. I recently packed up everything I had in my studio because I had to. I thought I was going to lose the space recently, but I was able to keep because of COVID.
Really?
But, yeah. I got so close to losing that space, but I worked it out.
Oh no, the space in Bushwick?
Yeah.
Right down on Metropolitan. Is it Metropolitan? Right?
Yeah. But I was able to hold on to it. So, but I packed it all up because I thought I may have to move. There was a much smaller space, but thank God I didn't. So, so it's all that. So I have some sense of what I have in there, but back in my apartment, it's filled with paintings from. That's where a lot of the work is.
Okay, so you have most of the work over
in my apartment, in the studios, your
apartment,
right?
And then the studio's just there primarily was the working source.
Yeah. And I'm trying to move everything I'm not showing out of that studio because this gets cluttered and. It's just, it's, I don't know.
You're not going to bring a bunch of weird filmmakers over there anymore?
No, that was it. No, that was the one.
I'm glad I got one of the shots of that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was great. But that space looks exactly the same. I painted it. I cleaned it up a little bit. So I was getting a mess. Once in a while, it's good to de Kooning used to mop his studio. So did Gorky. He used to mop his studio every week, which is strange. I would never.
You just pour the primer down, the wood
day.
Primer?
No, apparently, I read somewhere that de Kooning was very impressed that Gorky used to mop the studio floor every week, which I've never really done. But it impressed upon me that once in a while it's a good idea to just flush the studio out and clean in there, sweep it out.
I mean, I didn't think your place was very, very dirty. I found that your studio was very it was cluttered in a good way. It was covered in paint.
Well, I just
paints were everywhere. Pictures of Mick Jagger and Keith Richards and I
just wanted to do some skin shedding. I guess I wanted to just just clean out some stuff I wasn't using because it was getting, it gets dusty. And I wanted to also, a lot of my work wasn't packed properly, so I got a bunch of materials and packed a lot of the work properly.
Thank God for that. Now that's smart.
Yeah, so now if I have to leave if I have to leave within a week, I could do it. Whereas before I said, oh my God, it'll take me 2 months to pack.
So you were able to pack everything. So what is the process of, see, this is something I really don't understand anything about, is when you're actually trying to store the paintings that you work with, especially since you work in such a multi-layered format. How do you even protect those?
Well, the quick way to do it would just be to put in what we call, it's like a shadow box. It's like if you do like art handling, it's like basically you just sort of build a simple open face box on top of it and then wrap it in plastic, so it's like a tight drum.
Oh, okay.
And that would give them space so the painting's not being touched.
Rolling up. You're not rolling up anything.
That's the thing. With my work, I can't do that anymore.
You can't roll it.
No, it's all paper, so I can't roll them. So whatever size they are, that's it. So
wow. Okay.
There's a lot of objects to move at some point.
I mean, are we talking? We're talking in the hundreds.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot.
What did you find one? How long does the oldest one date back to?
In that space, it would have been 2008, I think. So
none of the '90s work survived.
No, a lot of it's there, but it's all wrapped up and it's in Manhattan. Okay, that's all rolled up in Manhattan.
Okay,
so the '90s are pretty much Manhattan. The '80s and '90s are Manhattan. Anything after that.
So you do have all those back there. That's fantastic.
I got everything. Yeah, I got a lot of it. I got the vast majority of it.
So then also you had some really interesting, well-deserved attention too through one of the museums. I can't remember exactly what museum.
Yeah, I
finally took you that painting. We went to the opening party. What was?
That was the American.
Describe that whole thing.
The American Academy of Arts and Letters. I got nominated to be in there, and I got in, and then they bought a painting.
Unbelievable.
And then a museum in Provincetown bought the piece. So I have one painting in a museum. I have a little toehold
in Provincetown.
That's right.
The famous P-Town.
That's right, where all the pilgrims and all my dark Gothic imagery comes from. So it's a perfect place. Right. I thought it was amazing. She called me, we're hanging the Provincetown Artists Association Museum. I was like, wow, that's great.
You're like, I've got another 85 of those if you want that. Any of that stuff. Yeah. Wow, that must have felt. I felt like the perfect spot for it.
That's the thing. I want them to have a good home. I don't want anything to happen to them.
That's what it's like. I think for a lot of artists.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
Listen, when you do art handling, you get to really see what happens to a lot of stuff, and most of it's fine, but things get damaged easily, and it's all about a good home. That's the main thing.
If you can get a good home, the air temperature is perfect, and
someone knows how to pack it properly. They're not going to wrap it in a suitcase or wrap a fucking sheet around it. With duct tape to store it in the closet. They're going to know the basics, how to
absolutely. You got to protect it. You got to protect it.
But at the same time, your work also has to survive damage. Like if someone ripped it in half, you'd still want to be able to say, "Wow, look at the great mosaics and stuff. Look, great tiny things. Oh my God, I got to fracture this guy's foot. It's the greatest foot I've ever seen."
Right. Just like the Louvre, right?
You got to hold up.
Most of the statues there are pretty fucked up. You know what I mean? Like you got the headless V.
But my teacher David used to always say that Greek sculptures always break exactly in the right spot. That was he'd say that.
That's nice.
He said, they always break exactly right.
So let's go. So let's get to style. I mean, like obviously you wanted to be big and bold and these very like illustrious, huge kind of paintings. But then over time, it changed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Describe a little of that process because I mean, if you look at your work now compared to, and I'm thinking about some of these classic Renaissance Italians. I could see the influence for sure, but you are using complete multi-medium. Like, when did you move off oils, or were you always?
Well, I remember this. I've always have a great respect for him, but not one of my favorite artists has always been Giacometti. I don't love his work. I respect him, but he's like Rembrandt to me. I have great love for it, and I respect him great, but I don't. It doesn't get me the same way. I don't know why, but it just never did. Yeah. Nevertheless, he used to erase his drawings so much he would put holes in them. And then I always thought to myself, why don't they just put a piece of paper on them? Why doesn't he glue a piece of paper on, draw on top of that? Instead of drawing. That was just something I thought. Right. And then one day I was like, I'm going to try that. And then I just got obsessed with it. And I started adding more paper and drawing on top of that. And then I like the speed of it too, so I can change a painting multiple times in one night, should I want to. Because I do that. I'll have it one way and then I move it. I think of them as working drawings in some ways. One of the things I've always loved about Matisse drawings is when you look at them, they often become very three-dimensional in a way because there's all those ghosts behind. A ghost, and boom, he hits it in the last 10 minutes. Boom, he snaps the whole thing in space. That's what I'm trying to look for, And I try to do that with what I do. I guess it's just a different translation, but I like that idea of building bones, and then adding a little meat, and then pretty soon you put on the final layer of frosting.
And if the listeners that have never even seen this, which I'm already going to promote heavily once in my essay portion of this podcast, is that you'll actually see Jesse when he's making his own work. He'll cut out different pieces of actual paper and use spray paint, and he'll glue these pieces of paper. When you look at one of his pieces of work in its original form, not necessarily a print, even though the prints do come off very three-dimensional too. It has this amazing sense of layer, which is crazy. It feels like it's just being built, things being built out of it, so it almost becomes mixed media in a way.
Yeah, it's funny. If I could do it in one shot, I would. That's the thing. I don't. They just I can't. So that's why they just keep, and that's why this some areas get thicker than others. It's just some line I want. I'm not feeling. De Kooning had that. De Kooning had what he used to call the sex. I think he used to say that. What was that phrase? The sexuality of doubt.
Interesting.
The sexuality of doubt, right?
What's that about? What's that?
Well, just like I don't. What it always meant for me is like the clarity of sex, but then also there's so much doubt and indecision and reticence in it as well. So there's a push forward and then there's a pull this way. So there's always this push and pull.
But he never came off from the painting though. I mean, he didn't. Did he ever do any kind of that sort of multimedia?
Well, no, but his painting he used to work on over and over again, like especially in the 50s and stuff. So a lot of them were worked over and over again, but I think it's that jigsaw-like form in space that he was sort of playing with.
He had a lot of that.
Yeah, so I think that's what I'm sort of thinking about, like trying to find that exact line. And there's so much. It's a very sexual thing, trying to find that sexy line that just.
Okay, so you're gonna have to go into this now because as a young Catholic boy, I'm interested to see what your version of.
I don't know what it is,
where it comes to sexuality, because we talked about this a little bit before, but just what does that mean? I mean, are we talking like a perfection of aesthetic? That gets you off. That's what's getting you moving towards that. So
I don't know. I don't know, but I know that I can. If I just get it's just a certain expression of push and space and line. It fills a space that just. I don't know where those tentacles are going to go of line and form and space. When I find it, but it takes forever. Sometimes there's so many paintings that have collapsed and I can't pull back from the dead. Because they just don't have that what I'm looking for. And when I do find it, I know. And then the last day and a half, I'm having a great time just sprinkling on, the frosting. But until I find that form in space that I want, it's impossible.
Because I've met some other painters who never talk about their process. I've met painters who never talk about their form. I've met painters who are very cold and methodical about and being precise. And I'm not saying that you don't have any of those attributes, but the way you talk about it is fascinating because I can even see, like, when you're speaking, you're getting on top of this microphone, like you're feeling this thing, and you're like, look, the line and the space and the meaning, and it's just fascinating to see where that sort of transmuted, and it's almost like a rock and roll energy that you have, where that immediacy of the drum beat and the singing, and as I said, you got these these great pictures of Mick and Keith and like these rock and roll guys. So you're really approaching it.
That's what what the sexuality of doubt means. Yeah. I mean, that's the androgyny of Mick and Keith has been a big part of my life, and that kind of and I think that's also expressed. I try to get it in that form and line and space. Like, I don't know about this, but my doubts of sexuality, my doubts as a person, of being all the it's such a strong sexual expression that I just want to find that space and those forms of space and let them breathe, So I guess that's one of the reasons I think the work has gotten more and more tighter, and I'm trying to find, because you can't get away with as much in a small painting, you cannot. So at least I can't. So I have to really find that space, and also, my goldfish theorem. If I was in a studio that was like 4 feet, so much larger, I'd paint gigantic, but I can only go. So my space is getting smaller, so I really can't work as big as I used to.
It's like functional form, basically.
That's why they've got. That's the real reason.
I think it's funny how much that line across from the sexuality to the painting, how that even creating the aesthetic that you finally want and you finally see it, and it clicks in your mind, in your unconscious mind, and perhaps what's on your inside your mind is now a little bit on the canvas, and you kind of make an equivalent between like having sex and making this work. That's interesting that you tie those two together.
Right. Yes, I do.
I wonder what Freud would say about this. This is great. Or Otto Rank, mostly. He studied. I don't know if you ever read him, but Dr. Otto Rank, he was one of Freud's followers. And he was Freud kicked him out of his inner circle too, but he was the first one to actually study the art and the artists with psychotherapy. And so it wasn't like, oh, let's cure this guy, but he was one of the first authentic psychotherapists who are actively studying. I'll send you. I'll order some on Amazon and I'll send them.
I would love that.
Yeah, because like he was the first one. He was a really hip psychoanalyst who associated. Antonin Artaud. Artaud was Theater of the Absurd. He was one of his patients. Henry Miller for a little while was one of his patients. Anais Nin was one of his major patients, and Otto Rank, he was a young guy, and he really was exploring the connection between the artist's sexuality and the pathology of an artist. And really, no one really looked at that, because before Freud and before a lot of that school of psychology, everybody just believed in muses or demons, and maybe some of us still do believe in that too. Like I do a little bit myself, but that's interesting. That influx of sexuality and art and combining that. So like, how do you know when it's right? I mean, is it something that you can? Does it come down to aesthetic, or is it something? Is it
there's that great scene in The Cat on the Hot Tin Roof. Remember the scene where he talks about the little metallic click in his head when he's drinking so much, and he's like, remember that? I
gotta rewatch that, because that's a classic.
That's what it's like.
That's a classic. Okay.
That's when when Brick talks about the the little metallic click going off in his head when he's just got just enough booze in him to forget about his friend who jumped out the window. The whole story, the whole thing.
Tennessee Williams,
that I always think about that because for me it's just like a visual tipping point when I finally get the right visual balance.
You hear the clicking of right. You hear the clicking on the tin roof.
Right, and also when I look at when I look at a picture I feel is done, I'm not looking at the painting. I'm looking at the 3 or 4 feet in front of the painting because I think that's the best way to look at a painting. You look at the cube of space in front of the painting. If the painting behind is still doing its thing back there, it's working. If it's not, you're gonna know right away. So I always look at I don't look right at the painting. I look right in front of the painting. So I try to think of that square space in front of it and just let it sit back there on its own. Don't look at it. Just let it be itself, and it starts to move and do its thing. Okay, now it's got a life of its own. It can operate without me. It doesn't need me anymore. So that's what I try to find with the picture.
And that's also kind of ties into your theory of every painting has to have a space. Like it needs to have a home. It needs to have a place where it can be viewed, and that is the official time when you feel like you've made it, or you feel like the painting has made it.
Yeah, when the painting doesn't need any hand holding anymore. It doesn't need me.
Yeah,
it can eat on its own. Yeah, exactly. So, but and I think I see that when I don't have to see any part of it anymore, and it still functions on its own.
And I love how you actually take it and involve the idea of the space in front of the painting. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's the best. Yeah, I think that's the best place when you want to look.
And here's another thing that I've always liked about your stuff too, because I've been a fan since day one. So. And what if you go to any like the MoMA, and I love the MoMA, it's no knock on modern art or anything like that, but when I go to see anything that would be considered modern, I'm talking anything, basically after after Warhol, Bob Rauschenberg, and Jasper Johns and these guys, who I think is one of the last great gasp of American artists, in my opinion. There was some great stuff, obviously Basquiat coming later, but when you really get to the later forms in the 80s and 90s, you see it moves much more towards a branding kind of, a lot of it more looks like iconic things for brands, where basically graphic art, it's where the graphic arts portion of the MFA programs took over, and they realized, we can brand something. This will be a great logo eventually. And one thing I always found fascinating about you and your work is because you have so much color and so much depth. I mean, your colors are admittedly muted. I mean, we're not talking. You're not doing huge dashes of pinks and neons. I don't think I've ever seen.
No, I don't use
anything in that. But you definitely have a lot of color. There's a lot of movement going on. There's a liveliness to your work. There's also a lot of metaphors and imagery that keep reappearing. Can you go into a little bit more about the metaphors and imagery that you like to keep returning to?
Yeah, I grew up on a horse farm in Massachusetts, and even though we're Roman Catholic, I guess I always sort of I aspired to be a Protestant, because they seemed to have a cleaner vision. It was a little more cut and dry.
I want to move this back just a little
more of a.
It was like that.
Yeah. So I've always loved that kind of pilgrim hats and.
All right, so New England. Yeah. All right, so this is New England stuff.
Yeah, when I grew up, and I grew up in Plimpton, which is right near Plymouth. So we were like 15 minutes from Plymouth Rock and stuff. So I just love this song's so dark, but I haven't grown up in the '70s too. Like I was very aware of The Exorcist, that movie,
right?
And there was another movie when I was a little kid. I'll never forget it, called Crowhaven Farm. It's like a bad, not bad. I shouldn't say that. It's a kitschy, like 70s satanic movie, sort of like after The Exorcist came out. I think they pumped out a few of these, and it's called Crowhaven Farm. And I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember seeing it when I was little, and it had such an impression on me that I was tortured by that very much.
So there was a lot of, basically
it was difficult.
So because I've noticed, so you've got a lot of. There's a lot of witches. Like I think you said in the film that we did together. Yeah. You said there's a lot of witches dancing in the woods at moonlight.
Yeah,
something like that. It's like,
I
put words in your mouth, but
no, but I believed that when I was little. I was how I saw the world when I was I was like 9, 10, 11, 12.
There was a puritanical, almost haunting nature, ghosts.
Yes. I guess I had fun with it later on, but at the time I really believed it, and I really did think I was going to go to hell every day.
Wow,
I was convinced every day. It was awful. It was awful.
I mean, that is horrible. Yeah. That's absolutely horrible.
Just go in there. It was very.
So what else do we see here? We see a lot of There's a lot of shoes. That's an interesting.
Well, I have a thing for shoes. I love shoes. Women's shoes. I don't have them. I don't wear them around the house or anything. It's not like I don't have like a fetish. I don't use them for any kind of. But I like
inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah, no, it's like if I had a fetish, I'd totally like a fetish for shoes. I don't actually have any shoes sitting around, but I just like the form of shoes. That's the kind of power of a stiletto, and I love that kind of pulled form. So I'm actually working on the shoe painting right now with it, but it's a shoe and an hourglass together, kind of like sex and death and time.
Of course, yeah. But I mean, who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love that?
That painting's a mess.
Well, one of the prints you have that I have above my bed here is Ann Putnam.
Ann Putnam, yeah.
So she's there spray painting she's a pentagram.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, with a penis on it.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even notice that. Oh, I should start looking at this.
Yeah.
I should look at it more. I've looked at it a million times. And what was that one that I love from the gallery show you had? Remember you said if no one bought it, I'm sure it's still
it's in the studio.
I'm sure it's just sitting there.
That's got your name on it. It's a gift to you.
That's a lucky. I know. I gotta go over.
Yeah, because it's waiting. I need the room.
Sitting there. And plus, I'm gonna have to figure out a way. You're gonna have to instruct me on how to really take care of it because
I'll show you. It's gonna come. It's already packed properly. So all you have to do is take it out of it. We'll hang it up, and then you can save the box.
But I want to know. I want to know. Do I put it in glass?
No, it's fine.
You don't have to put it in glass.
No, it's fine. I do the right thing. The paper is all like I use good materials, and it's all.
And tell me about these materials.
Well, I use something so. Well, I mostly use acrylics and I use different kinds of things, but I love flash paint, and it's stuff. I think it's a Belgian company. I think
flash paint.
Yeah, it's got real cadmium in it, real like oil cadmium. Okay. Like it's got the metal, heavy metal in there, but it dries like gouache and it's water based. Oh, it's so sweet. I mean, the black is like, oh my god, it's super.
Yeah, so because it looks like an oily black kind of.
No, it doesn't. It dries like gouache. So it's got that kind of. It's got real pigment in it. It's got real powers. You don't need much. It extends a lot. And
this is flash paint.
Yeah, it's called flash paint.
When did you start using flash paint? Is this a common occurrence? You see a lot.
2010. Somebody gave I was showing with the gallery. My friend Christopher Henry had a gallery on Elizabeth Street, and he also had one on 29th Street. I showed with him for a while. Actually, that was before Claire. I guess that was like 2008. Now that I think about it, I did show in 2008.
Because before that, it was oils.
Yeah. But as soon as I started showing in 2008 with Chris, I was showing just the paperwork by that time.
Okay.
And he told me about flash paint. I was using acrylics and other things, and then I got.
Okay, so you went from oils, and obviously you're using all the forms. Like you went from oils, then you went to acrylics, but you're mixing matching.
Yeah.
But then now you're using things like spray paint.
Yeah, I'm using spray paints. Yeah, all different kinds of paints. Yeah, and just trying to make sure and put them in using different binders to keep them together until they don't
To me, it's fascinating when I see, especially because again, like just so you guys know, it's called a comic alarm, and if you just put in Jesse Mccloskey or my last name Matthew Diabate, and just put in a comic alarm, it will come up. It's the short version of it, and I still actually have so much more of it. Yeah. But over the years, every time I keep watching our thing we did, it's such a contained fun. It's fun. It's such a fun way of doing it, and I had to edit it on the fly, because we were premiering it with one of the last Chat Noir parties we were throwing.
Yeah.
And so I guess like you said, function and form.
Yeah.
I didn't have it much time. Plus, I didn't even know how to edit. So I really like exactly what we did when we did it, and I think it really shows it in one of the scenes in it. You can see us talking about the cadmium paints, flash paints, and actually it shows you working on kind of building up something. Like if you said if something feels dead, you get right in there and we do sort of a cut motion thing to finally when it's finished, and everybody I've shown it to just is like, who is this guy? Now, do you remember how we met?
I was managing the restaurant of bartending.
You were
yes.
Yeah, you were managing.
That's right.
Teddy's.
That's right.
Teddy's, the classic Teddy's, not the redone Teddy's.
Yeah, but I couldn't remember if we first met at the Abbey. We're friends of friends, and then we went. But I couldn't remember which way I went.
Did we? Yeah, because I'm thinking. Okay.
I remember seeing you a couple times at the Abbey,
Because I remember meeting you, and I'm going, well, he's a cool guy, nice guy, and then I'm like, oh, cool, he's working over at Teddy's, it's a great place. I like to waste a lot of hours there, drinking and writing and stuff. And then I think that's when you showed me the work, and so a new dimension occurred. Yeah. And we've been that must have been. Gosh. I think I met maybe in 2007 or 8 or something.
Right around then,
Because now it's what is it, like 12? That's 12 years, man. Of this.
I know, it's crazy.
And I still haven't picked up any paintings. I got a print.
I got a print. I know. It's waiting for you on the rack.
See, I'm in honor of that because like then I have an original Mccloskey. Because I sing your praises constantly to others. And again, like now, because of all this kind of like a little bit of success that you've had with this, do you have like places where people can see your work like online? Or?
Yeah, I think I have like a website that I'm just because of COVID, I sort of kicked it. I had kind of let it get a little dusty, but the last few months I put a bunch of new landscapes on there because I still do a lot of landscape paintings.
I see a lot on Instagram.
Yeah, I do.
And what is the handle on Instagram?
Jesse Mccloskey. Okay, yeah, just my full first last name. Just great. No space.
Okay, I'll put that up on the. I'll put that up on this site here. Yeah.
And so sometimes when I just freaking out and I don't know what I'm doing, I've been drinking so much. There's a coffee place down the street, and I get these big white cups. So I've been painting on them.
Okay.
And then I sort of spin them and make little movies out of them. I want to try to make some more sculptures. Yeah, just when I can't work on the paintings.
You're moving into a different version.
Just fun, yeah, just some fun. Cool. I'm redoing all my coffee cups because I have so many, and because obviously I work on the paintings, but sometimes like I can't work on them. I'm like, what am I gonna do with this painting? I'm sitting there looking at it. Okay, just redo a coffee cup and then go. And sometimes
but no drinking. Now you're not. You'll take a little bit on the.
Yeah, I used to drink a fair amount, and
really, back in the early New York days.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and so it's I'm taking a hiatus.
Did you ever go way into drugs ever? Like, did you do that?
No, I never had enough money to go really into the drugs. Yeah,
because in the 80s it would have been
if I'd only had enough money, I would have been some serious coke. I really would have. But I never had enough money for coke. I couldn't afford it. I never had it.
That's kind of a good. That's a
great it was a good thing. I think I would have loved it. I think I would have loved it. But
poverty helps.
Yeah. But when I was younger, I used to smoke a lot of weed. And
yeah. Of course. Yeah. Yeah, that's wild because some of the painters and I'm not going to mention anyone on the podcast here, but yes, a lot of the people, especially any artist really. I mean, I've seen them go all manner of different ways. I mean, they've gone the Van Gogh route with the absinthe and the or the heroin, one of those. Luckily, as you move slowly into whatever you're doing, especially with age, that you kind of temper all of those. All those desires, to kind of go out of your mind, you kind of like more focus, like what's in my mind.
And I just like I could feel what it was for a while, what it was beginning to do to me. Just like just feel it
like
all.
On a physical level,
yeah,
or like on a mental,
more like a physical level, and I just and so
But it started hurting you a little bit.
Yeah, it did. And I'm very much. I'm not against it at all.
Right? Yeah, you're not a. Yeah, you're not a prohibitor.
No, but not at all. But I had to just slow it down because the anxiety. It became an excuse to drown the anxieties, and so I'd rather feel the anxiety. I think sometimes
go through the
the Stoic way. It's better to go. What do the Stoics say? The problem is the way, not the path. Right?
What do they say?
That's the idea. Was like the Stoic. What's that Stoic? Like if you're going on a certain way and there's a problem, that stops you, that is the new path, not the way you thought you were going. So the new path is the problem.
I love the Stoics. They're so
so I thought about that. Like I just
when you go back and read these guys, how smart they, how essential it is in our modern world with so much going on at one time that they're like kind of not even cold pragmatism, but I think where they come from, it's certainly like just a very decisive way of looking at it.
Also that inside and out, right? The only thing you have in the world is inside your mind, right? Even your own body's never going to really be your own. You're going to break your hand, you might lose your finger, whatever disease, but you only have inside your mind is the inside world and the outside world. And I like that notion of like inside outside. So like no matter what's going on, you have you only have to answer really to that. You only yourself, and no one will ever be in there with you.
No, that's the other thing.
Yeah,
and especially with drinkers too. I mean, I certainly gone through my thing, and there's no doubt that writers and drinkers kind of go hand in hand.
Painting too.
I mean, you're right. Fuck, yeah. But there was a great. I can't remember who said it. I'm sure it's probably either from a movie or it's something incredibly intelligent. But it's like what do they say? It's drinking is that kind of fine line where it's like. You want to ride the dragon. You don't want the dragon to be riding you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Because sometimes you get on that thing and you get to that moment where you're like, okay, I'm feeling kind of like you were saying, Tennessee Williams. He's hearing the clicking in his head.
Yeah.
That's him riding the dragon.
Right.
And then after that, the dragon comes out from the mountain, picks you up, drags you up. Now you're disheveled, sweaty. drops you in front of the townspeople, and you look like shit. And then that's when everything goes right to shit.
Right. And I'm totally down with. I'd love to be dropped in front of the townspeople. I'm really good, but I just I don't.
I think that's a bad thing. Jesse.
Yeah, no, that's how I want to do the townspeople. Well, with the pitchforks, but right. Yeah, it's. God, it's just the problem. It was just so much sugar in it. I just started to feel it in me all the time. What you're saying on the
physical side,
yeah. Just I could feel it, and I was like, I have to,
Yeah, you gotta like pull the plug on that one. That's for sure. But then there's the new challenges, especially challenges of the changing New York City. I'm sure from, like you said, from the aughts into the tens decade. I mean, prices started going up. Like, when were you pushed out of Manhattan? Well,
that's the thing. I find now I'm all alone. I don't know any other. So many artist friends of mine have gone away. People I used to party with, crazy, have either had children and moved away, or they've moved out of state, or they gave it up. And I'm now in my studio building. It's just me and this other person, two other people. And everyone else is left. COVID didn't help, And it's funny, the party partners was so much, but by yourself, it gets very lonely, because you're doing it in a room alone. It's not good, So, that definitely killed some of that vibe.
But when you see, and when you talk about the changes, I mean, from, even just from the year 2000 after 9/11,
right.
and then seeing a lot, rejuvenation of New York City and Manhattan. When did you finally lose your studio space in Manhattan and then move out to where you?
The first one I had was in Lorimer in Bayard, and that one right across, right at the McCarran Park where the Loop is.
I know it well.
And it used to be that mustard building. It looked like a mustard colored castle.
It
used to. It doesn't look like that now, but it's the building that faces the park.
I know that. I know the Lorimer and the Bayard. I know that right there. Right. Yeah. Didn't they destroy all the buildings over there? And make
and I had an amazing, huge studio in there for a long time, and they used to make mattresses in the basement. And one time I went down there, I swear to God, because the power went out. And I went down there, and it was like looking at a Goya. You know that Goya painting of the guys pounding the anvil at the Frick? You've seen it, the way they're all like hitting the anvil.
I love me some Frick.
It was exactly like that. I went down there, there was a big open pit, with a metal drum in it. Yeah. And it was on fire.
Oh, my God.
And it was the only light down there. There was no light. And there's 3 guys down there, and they're banging on some metal stuff, like making the beds. And I was like, God, it was medieval. It was amazing. But then, they kicked us all out, and then I moved further out to Grand and Morgan, which is where I am now.
Yeah, so you're at Grand and Morgan now, and that's the stuff. So what year, do you remember the year that you moved out?
2008 is my current space, I think.
Okay, okay. Wow, so that's still a long.
Yeah, I can't believe I had it as long as I had.
12 years to be doing your thing in Brooklyn and just keep surviving here.
Yeah, I used to get a discount on my space because I used to do the trash and I used to clean the toilets there.
Is that over now? I
don't do that anymore. Thank God that's over. But I did it for years. I had a great space and I get a discount on the rent because I used to every day take the trash out. I clean the toilets.
How do you think Villa Borghese Studios keeps the rent so low around here? I help with keeping this place clean.
Yeah, that's what I did for a long time.
I handle security issues if anybody's trying to get in the building that doesn't belong here. I'm like the resident asshole.
Yeah.
And and I shovel the snow.
Yeah. That's
just
exactly
so he doesn't ruin this whole vibe that I got going on here.
Yeah. No, that's good.
But that's like the old school kind of New York stuff. Right. Have you seen a difference in like attitude of people change in the last 10 years?
Well, I don't want to sound like too curmudgeon,
of course.
But the same time, sometimes I do see people do treat the studio I worked in, and even though they would see me a lot do it, they very much treat it like a hotel, like I was the concierge or something. Sometimes they would just younger art. I mean, just maybe it's people with money. I don't know. It's just people would sometimes treat the studio floor like it was like there were people cleaning up at, which was me. But it was odd sometimes.
You mean in your own space or just
no in the common area where the hallways are. So, but it is what it is. But yeah, I guess it's just. But all those people, they're all gone now. Everyone left the building. It's amazing. I got the whole floor to myself.
Did they leave because of COVID?
COVID.
What?
Yep, COVID.
I mean, that's
kind of... there was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 artists that I know moved out of the floor. Gone.
Don't you touch that. Killed Cat Radio.
everybody that I know that's a creative person, at least in the art world that I know.
Yeah.
All of them have been going nuts on their projects.
Right. That's exactly what I did. I just
right.
I cleaned the studio. I did everything I'd never have time to do.
It's like I started this. I started Kill the Cat Radio. I would do an audio stories where I read the short stories, but I have sound effects and stuff like that. Not like too cheesy, but just kind of like audio books. And so I've been releasing that and then finishing a novel. I've got other friends who, Mike Blaine out in California.
Yeah.
He, in the first 2 months, he just ducked into his house. He's about to have a baby, by the way. He just did his own solo album out of nowhere, and he's a drummer, and he just played every instrument, and there it was, and it was done, and so I couldn't believe the outpouring coming from these people.
I know, and they have the gall to say, what did they want to say the other day? Oh, they don't want to pay their rent or something like that.
It was something like where they say like, oh, well, they're just going to be paid, and I'm not denying that there's a laziness in human nature, sure. That's a fact. I mean, that some people are just not going to give a shit, and that's fine. And they want to do whatever they got to do each day. But most of the people I know,
the people we know aren't like that. They're like what they want to do their stuff.
They want to get their shit
done. That's why they live in New York City. You want to get stuff done,
especially here. Yeah. So you're saying a lot of your friends. I mean, like you and Nika stayed, right?
Yes, Nika and I, of course.
So you guys hunkered down, and you stayed.
Yeah.
But all my friends left.
Yeah, a lot of
I have no. I mean, I was happy to find out you were still here.
Yeah,
and I try to think of any of the friends, the artistic friends that I know, and there's no one here that I know. So I have no friends. I had to go out and now make new. I call it COVID friends.
Right.
Where I'm hanging out with the Jamaican tunnelers who are working on the L train and they're drinking at 5 a.m. because I can't sleep, and I'm walking on the street and I have a 6-pack with these guys, and now they're cool. Now we're cool. I got their numbers. I'm gonna have one of them come over here and interview them. It's gonna be great.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, no, because just whatever, or just some other guys, some carpenters.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least you have your partners here.
Yeah.
But you said all the other artists that you knew, they're gone.
Yes. It's weird. Even friends of mine who've just. Actually, before even COVID, just would pack up and left. I mean, it's weird. I try not to get lonely, but I definitely do sometimes. Like,
do you feel a difference?
Yeah, I do. Like, as I've gotten older too, there are times when I feel intensely lonely. I worry a lot about the work only because I'm the only Nika, just a few other people have any, would know how much is there, what would happen to it. Just how tenuous. I guess that's true of many artists.
What do you mean, in your studio?
Yeah, I thought to myself, if I got COVID or Nika got COVID or something, the work would all end up hopefully somewhere, but I don't really know yet. So I'm trying to plan out to have a system in place, so if I die or get hit by a car,
just drop off a fourth of it right here.
No, I would have a list and a pre-approved budget with a moving company because I know how these things work. I've been to so many artist studios who are drop dead, and no one knows what to do with this.
This is a horrible conversation. I don't want this.
But it's just trying to be just as in terms of practicality.
I just don't like this conversation.
No, I know, but have it set up so that it's not.
I get it. No, I mean, I guess I did the same thing with my sis. She gets all the writing. So all the history of that.
So that's it. That's people without kids. This is what we have to think about.
It's true. But you never went that direction.
Oh God, no.
That family was never part of on the equation.
Never wanted kids. I would never have.
Really,
kids.
Even from a young age.
Not even.
There was not a dad Mccloskey in you.
None of that in me. Absolutely none. I've never wanted kids. I don't like really kids. I don't. Whatever they're there. I don't even notice them.
Do you have a theory on this?
I always thought there was just. Well, I shouldn't say what my theory is because I think it'll probably upset a lot of people.
I don't. Well, this podcast, people want to listen to things that they don't normally hear. It's not.
I don't understand. We all build our own prisons, I guess. But okay. I don't understand. People have kids and then they complain about them. I never understood that.
That is weird.
Yeah.
I think that's weird.
Yeah.
Right, but or when they complain about their children.
Yeah, I'm sure they could point the finger right back at me. My own prisons I've built. God knows I have plenty of them. But
what prisons? What?
Well, the painting becomes its own prison, or my own. Painting becomes my own prison. It's like you build it yourself. I am the work. I am the work. I don't feel that I would be. I'm not worth anything, but I think the work is. I'm not interested in just coasting along through life and just, enjoying lunch and sleeping, I have to make it. If I'm not making it, I don't want to be alive. You know what I mean? That's pretty. I don't take any great joy in anything else.
That's ride or die shit right there.
I feel that way, and I'm not. I'm making it, or it's not worth it. That's how I see things. It's like I always think of it as like vampiric dirt. If I'm in the vampiric dirt, I'm breathing that dirt. I'm in the dirt, or when I'm outside the dirt. When I'm not in that studio, I always feel it. Just feels like somebody, like the battery is low, or like not that, or the sun is down. That's the wrong metaphor. Like all the blood's been drained out. I can't breathe that well. It's just everything is just waiting to get back there. It's always
going shopping at IKEA.
I just feel strung out all the time, waiting to get. And even though I don't even like doing them, I hate
jury duty. Jury duty is not
it's
good
awful.
For
and I hate making paintings. It's an awful thing to do. You spend all your time sitting in there thinking about your. Oh, it's awful.
Well, you hate making paintings.
Oh, it's awful. It's just an awful feeling.
Well, see that's pretty wild, because I would think that you'd be
I
sexuality. Remember you were saying the sexuality of the movie.
They can never resolve.
And then getting into it and.
Yeah, well, that's great in the last 15 minutes when it's going well, when the picture comes together. But all the months you're there courting the thing, it's always one flop after another. The picture comes together and then collapses, and it comes together and then it collapses, and then it comes together and yet again it collapses. It's a house of smoke, and every time I kind of breathe on it, poof, it disappears. And so many times I think I'm so close. Oh, I got this painting, and I feel so good about myself, and I can finally get it done now, and I don't have to struggle so hard because I know what I'm doing. And I go back, and I come back the next morning, and I'm like, God, that's an awful dead-looking thing. How could I have thought this was anything? It's obviously a piece of trash.
Right.
I can't do it. I'm completely hopeless and useless. What am I doing here? Why am I spending all this money? This is a waste of time and energy. It's just awful. And they just pile up in the corner, And I just sort of sit there with them a while, and then little by little, I'll look at it in the corner and say, well, I don't know, maybe that yellow, maybe it's not quite so bad. And then you start thumbnailing back in, and pretty soon you're like, oh, I got this
back
painting.
To the glory again.
Yeah, I know. You're back on top of the roller coaster, and you're sliding back down the hill again, and it feels great.
The bipolar nature of any kind of creative. Well, a lot of the youngsters, they get upset because they think it's going to happen overnight, or whatever. Or they think whatever or the idea will even happen overnight, or God forbid, fame happens overnight, or any of that stuff nowadays. But but like you so perfectly exemplify what an artist needs to be doing. They need to be in there, first of all, looking at it every day, right? And then figuring out, no, that's shit. I hate this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it goes back to your theory of doubt, like the sexuality of doubt, but then also how to get past that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because like you said, you infused most of your life to do this.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I feel like I've been picked, which just feels a good feeling. I feel like I was picked.
Wait a minute. Now you're gonna have to. Okay, you're gonna have to talk about this.
Well, it's like
picked.
Yes. Well, I showed up, at the temple, and they let me in, and now I'm in, and now I have to do it. You know what I mean?
You thought you were picked. Wait, you think you were picked by some higher being?
Interest in in a fun way, not like any kind of.
No. I don't think right. You're not a Catholic anymore.
Right, and I don't believe in. I don't believe. Well, I shouldn't say this. Maybe she'll turn against me. But there's a great painting of Diana. The School of Fontainebleau or something. There's this famous painting. You've definitely seen it. It's this very masculine-looking Diana. She's striding through the woods, and she has her hounds with her. And it's always one of my very favorite paintings. I love this painting. It's real mannerist painting, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even know who the artist is. Some unknown French artist. I think it's like 15th century, something like that. And but she's my goddess, and I have her. A little playing card reproduction. She's the highest reproduction in the studio. She's right below the light, so she is the centerpiece of my little library area.
Goddess of the hunt.
She is the one, so she's the one I pray to, and if I keep showing up for her, she's
okay. So there are so this is a muse like idea,
right? So you show up for the muse, you worship the muse, and eventually, because you show up, they'll throw you a few bones out in a while. But you got to show up.
You got to
show up. Picasso used to say, inspiration will come, but she has to find you working. Right. Inspiration doesn't come to you.
Knock on the door.
When you're working, then eventually it'll show up. But you can't expect it to come first. You have to be working, and then it comes.
See, that's fantastic. That's such truth. I find the same. I find it to be absolutely the same thing. Absolutely the same thing.
You got to do it, and then it comes.
I can't believe it, but pick though. I love this though because when you were a kid. Were you drawing? Were you doing all that kind of thing? Like, were you into that kind of stuff?
Well, when I was a little kid, my mom and I had a game. It was the greatest game ever. We would be out driving or something like that. I would have just a simple piece of paper and pen, and I would draw a shape and I would give it to her, and she had to make something out of that shape using the basic shape, and then she would doodle the shape, and then I'd have so sort of like look like a little bit like a house or a little duck or whatever, and you'd add a few things, but you had to kind of use the basic shape, and it has such an influence on me because I remember thinking line can be anything, you know. Right. And all that, just with subtle changes, it can be a pear, a house, a cat, whatever you want it to be, or even just subtle different variations of fruit, with just subtle changes. And I was like, whoa, you know.
So that you kind started learning about line and form early, or at least playing with the idea of it for a while. I would assume.
Well, it was actually kind of a funny roundabout way because I went to an art school. There was some sort of hippie teacher guy in a couple towns over.
All right.
And he never wore shoes, and he always had. And he was like this sort of, he was like good-looking older guy, and he had and I was only like 11 maybe. Yeah. And but he had this studio, and you could go there, and he would give you painting lessons, and so you would bring a photograph, and you could paint the photograph. You know,
that's cool.
So he wasn't really teaching how to draw paint, but he was showing how to very kind of Bob Ross kind of school of painting kind of thing. And I went there, and I learned that when I learned about how the brush works and canvases.
How the brush, but before that, there was no doodling, there was no drawing.
There was.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, sure. My mother bought me the Christmas mouse, a coloring book when I was a little kid.
Okay,
and
so it starts there.
There's like this little mouse, and he collects things around the apartment or the house, and he makes his own Christmas. And I colored it in, and my mother said, "Oh, that's great." And so I thought, "Oh, that's something I can do."
Maybe you should put the Christmas mouse right up there with Diana. You know
I still have it.
I kind of love you, Christmas mouse.
I still have the Christmas mouse. I found it. It's in my mother's house.
So then that happened. So then around 11, that's when the brushes started coming.
Yeah, then I started, painting on canvases and stuff like that.
I see. Yeah. So that opens up to an entirely different thing, and that's what led you through to get to the educational system that you went through, basically, right?
Yeah, and I was so lost after having, I went to 1 year of a state school at the Bridgewater State College, because I didn't know, I was drawing and painting, but I didn't know anything about art school, because it was really right on the farm. I didn't know anything about anything. And this friend of mine suggested, why don't you drop out of there and go to this school, or this art school, you might like that, and that's when I went to Swain. So.
And then there's the opening, there's the connection.
Yeah, my friend Heidi Iverson, she was a friend of mine down the street, and she had gone there for graphic design, or she was going to go there. And so she said, you should go there. You might like it. So then I applied, and I got in, and so I went there.
So to me, it's like, all right, so and then one of the other things I've always been curious about, I don't know if we got into the last time we were doing the movie, but have you ever even traveled and shown your work in other countries?
I've done not much traveling, no, but I'd like to, but no, I haven't shown my work that much. A couple of different places, but not really, no.
Because it'd be interesting to see, because I don't know how the international market works. I mean, especially now with the COVID bullshit's going on, but when and if and when they come up with some kind of vaccine and the world just jump starts back to whatever solution it is, I'd be fascinated. It'd be fascinating to find you trying to reach out, or I could try to reach out. I don't know how that works to get your work over there. I mean, shipping costs this and this and this, but I gotta say, I mean, just especially even in Paris, people they're just starving for it.
Yeah, I would love to try. It always seems like such an impossible task, like how to get anybody to notice anything anywhere. Sometimes galleries will have submission,
definitely
things you send, and it always.
How does it work with the agents? There's agents, right?
Yeah,
there's agents, right?
Yeah, but when I signed the contract with that gallery, I shouldn't have done that. That was a mistake. And
wait. What gallery?
When I was showing with Claire Oliver,
you shouldn't have. What did you sign?
I just signed that I would show with her exclusively. And
you don't have to go too much legally speaking.
Yeah.
I don't want to get you in trouble. But
no, it's over now. It's been going for years. And years.
What does a contract like that look?
Well, the idea was that, basically what it meant was that, 50-50, I get that. That's pretty standard.
Okay.
And the idea was that I would only show with that gallery, which is something I accepted. There was no...
During that time,
yeah, when I was with her, I'd only show with her. And I did only show with her.
And how long does something like that last?
Well, I think the contract was for like every year or renews unless you change it. I had a lawyer look at it, and they were like, it's got a lot of holes in it, but it's just sort of like a general written agreement, which is really how I understood it. I mean, it's fine. I never had a problem with her in the contract or anything.
No. But you would never do a contract
I wouldn't do it again. No way.
But aren't there independent art managers or things like this? 'Cause I know for writers, obviously, there's agents. And for musicians, there's managers. People who negotiate on your behalf who get a cut. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's got to be people out there who... Have you ever even tried to go that way? I mean, I know you're just very much about the production.
No, I would love to. I just don't have the wherewithal to follow through and find it, and it always seems like some sort of vague media person who might be able to sell your work to to a office building, or it never really turns into much of anything. And it's sort of like, it always seems to be like that kind of like social media thing. Like the problem with social media too is like, you're putting everyone gets your work for free,
right?
They get it all free. They don't actually have to buy it. They don't have to. So I understand it's supposed to be helpful, but it isn't. It's the opposite.
Some people still want prints though. I mean, it's not like they're gonna like take something off Instagram and just blow it up and put it.
It's true. It's
nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, I guess but I don't know. I
mean, the art business is isn't it gross to talk about?
Yeah.
I still find it to be
difficult. But it is the market, and I wish I knew more about it or spent. I just I can't do it. It's not in me to promote myself that kind of way, and
How did you get that great? No, you showed at that great gallery that I saw you at.
Well, my friend Michael Anderson.
Michael Anderson. What's his gallery called?
He was showing at Marlboro for a while, but unfortunately, he just passed away.
Oh no! The gentleman who's putting on the show that I saw you at down in
the Canal Street show a long time ago.
No, the one downtown Brooklyn here.
Remember no, different. This is a different person.
Okay.
Michael is a friend of mine. He's an artist. He just a few weeks ago. Yeah, he had a heart attack. I don't know if it was COVID related. He just passed away. Yeah, he helped me get into the Claire Oliver Gallery, and we traded work. He was a good friend of mine. I don't know what happened.
He was a painter as well.
Yeah, I just found out I guess it was like a week, 10 days ago. We weren't really close friends, but we were friends. I just found he just had passed away. So many of the people I used to hang out with a lot just are gone.
So what would you like to do? I mean, I think
these days are gone too. Like as you get older, things change. You get more focused, I guess, or less. Less distractions. I guess that's true of myself. Less distractions, and so you become the old person in the room doing their thing, whether it's writing or whatever. Do you mean
like people are just like people would come to the studio and be like, "Hey, Jesse, I brought some folks, some wine.
Yes,
want to hang out?"
That used to happen a lot more often. That doesn't happen anymore, and now with COVID, it doesn't happen at all.
Yeah, it's never going to happen in COVID. It's
done.
Over.
Yeah, and for the foreseeable future, I used to have models at the studio. You drink wine and party all night.
Do you still share your studio with anybody?
No,
like that room?
Moment,
Didn't you have another lady? Another person was sharing with you.
Yeah, at the moment. No.
So it's just you on an empty floor.
Yeah, well, there's a couple. Like I said, there's a couple of artists on the floor, but the vast 80% of the floor is completely empty. So all the doors are just sort of flopping open because
that's so spooky. How do they even? So how does that warehouse even stay in business, or how does that even?
I don't know. I guess they own
stay alive.
I don't know. The whole building's owned by a management company or something. And the whole it's a very busy building, but my floor is empty right at the moment.
Well, again, that building. Do they have any actual manufacturing going on? Or
there's all sorts of things going there. There's
What's going on in there?
There's a lighting company, there's a crate making company, there's all sorts of things in that building. All sorts of things. It's just great. So there's a lot of people around, but except for on my floor now suddenly.
That's so spooky though.
Yeah. But I got a year lease signed again just now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'm good for
you're
I'm good till August of next year.
And then but you don't paint in your actual house. Like when you go home, what would be your normal daily schedule when it comes down to the work? Do you get up and then you ride a Bushwick? Is that what?
Yeah, now you have to lately because I just got some work back, so I'm doing some art handling in the daytime, and then I get to the studio around 3, and then I'm there till whenever.
Okay, so it goes into the night, and then you come back home, and then what's real life for you like? I know it's because you're so dedicated, and so driven, and so primarily focused on the creative stuff. What's real life like for you? What does that consist of, other than getting coffee at your place and turning that into some wild shit?
I think that it's just, I'm really very good at keeping a schedule the same all the time. I wish I could say I do a lot of. I don't. If I'm not in the studio, I'm fine. I'm gonna loop back around to get there. That's kind of how it works. So
you come home, get some dinner.
Yep. Hang out with Nico. We have some fun.
All right, so you guys chill.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever we watch something. Maybe watch a movie.
Yeah.
Maybe or something.
Hang out. What do we do? And then then and I'll obviously anytime I'm not working in that job, and that was so great. When did that
job start kicking up again?
Just about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, cool.
But it's it's not much right now. So, but
But at least you get to do something.
Yeah, and I'm really, the studio is expensive, so I had to have money coming in. I can't, that's my,
again,
the worry of I don't want to lose that space, so I love that studio. It's It's amazing. So I
remember asking that, what is your greatest fear, and you said to lose a studio in New York City.
I know.
But what about New York City? I mean, like, what? How do you even exist in
I know it's not. I know it's getting long in the tooth. I know it's not working anymore, and it's been working for years. I know that. I gotta get out of here at some point.
I feel like it's limping. That's what
I know.
I said this in the last podcast. I'm repeating myself. I feel like New York is an old man with a cane, and it's like trying to get through. And like, I'm still here, and you're like, are you though?
I know.
You got dementia. You're not listening anymore. You don't tell any more good stories. You know what I mean? You don't want to hang out anymore. You know what I mean?
And it's so funny. Like, I go into people's apartments now, and there's so many people, like hedge fund managers, like super like blue chip art collections they have, and they want me to hang their work and move stuff around. And I always the sad that gets a little painful when you see pictures they have of the Ramones or something. And I'm not a I'm not wishing back in the punk days at all. No, but it's a relic of what used to be like the New York in the cool days, whatever. And now it's just sort of codified in these photographs. And the richest people have all moved into those buildings and got rid of CBs, whatever they might be. And they've and now they're all just have these little tomes of all these little history things. It's very strange. Like, this has become codified that way, and you're like, and yet when you walk in there with paint on your pants, you're like still sort of linked to that world in a way, You're like you're still some sort of dinosaur crawling out.
No, you're definitely linked there. No, they're the dinosaurs. Yeah, they're the dinosaurs. They're the weirdos.
Yeah.
No, not the Ramones. The people who put these things up because why are they doing that?
They do. I know.
They moved all those guys out. They got a picture. They're gonna have a picture of you one day up there, like in the fancy like on Wall Street. They're gonna have a picture of Jesse.
I saw a poster I did one time in this guy someplace in the Hamptons, a poster of that I did that for I think it was for the Fibbers, and it was signed by somebody. I don't know how he got it or what it meant. And I was in such a weird mood that day. I was so depressing to see it because this guy didn't know who I was. I was moving artwork into the apartment for him and he had one of my artworks that I did. And I couldn't even talk to him. I was just so depressed. Crazy. I was like, I just left down the work and I went out of there. I was just like, it was weird,
That is so spooky.
It was very strange.
To see your own stuff.
Yeah, and not have any relationship to it in a strange way. God. It was weird. Anyway, that's happened before. Just the sickness of the super rich in New York. It's just, after a while, it can really, I have to make them, to really try not to dislike them, at some point. It's hard, you see the kind of waste and stuff and...
Well, there's that.
That's number one. You walk in, you see these amazing apartments, and you walk in, you see some piece of artwork that is just such a piece of trash. You're like, did you really buy that thing? Yeah. Really? I mean, but everything means something to somebody, whatever. But like when you see it, when they just buy it as a piece of because it's worth something, whatever. It's hard to look at sometimes. Sometimes you walk in, it's a god awful painting, some dumb text on there that says like, you're cool or whatever, some giant thing with splattered paint, and you're like. It's just so stupid. It's hard, it's hard to look at, and you walk in and you're like, you have to make a lot of. That's why I'm really enjoying the masks, so I don't have to show my face to these people.
Right. You don't have to show you don't have to show your disgust.
And I'm not, listen. My feeling about artwork is that anybody who bothers to make something.
No.
I'm 100%. I'm just, I'm not. I'm just saying that sometimes you see so much crap,
Because New York has always had that kind of like attitude where, who do you think you are?
Right.
You think you are somebody. Well, then what do you got?
Right.
But does it sell though? It's always this constant like chipping away at your ego. Yeah. And I think like somebody like you who's been through it a lot kind of has built this sort of armor.
It's funny. I definitely feel like I built the armor, but I don't think it's a good armor. I'm not happy about the armor because it makes me ignore a lot of things that I probably should have paid attention to. Like it definitely has its own setbacks. Like. Constantly feeling that craving to go in there and remake the pictures. It has a lot of setbacks because, there were a lot of times I probably should have been tromping around Chelsea, looking hanging out with other people that I probably would have sold more work. So I definitely have regrets. Like I definitely messed up.
Really?
Oh yeah, I feel like I could have done it differently. I think, and maybe I would have sold more work. But because I was, I should have put the brush down once in a while and poofed it around Chelsea more, and maybe I could have met some more people and I would have found decent homes for my work. And now that I haven't done those things, at least not as much sometimes that I tell myself I should have, I worry that I'm behind the curve on it. Because, again, it is still objects I'm making. They need a place to hang or to sit.
But you're not an old man, and you're not walking around with a cane.
Not yet.
And you're not right. You will be eventually, but like not now.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so the game's not out.
Yeah.
But I can see what you're saying about the regret. That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things you actually regret.
Oh yeah. I feel like I should have done it differently. And many times I go back, but it's easy to do that. But like I keep thinking, well, I probably should have done that then, and why did I do it this way? And Yeah, I definitely, in retrospect, I think I should have made some other decisions that maybe would have done things.
Is this a new thing in the last 5-10 years? Have you been thinking about this?
Yeah, I guess because
I've never heard you talk like that.
Well, I've just so many people have left, and I realized that I feel like I need to get it better organized. What I'm going to do with it all. I'm really, really thinking about that a lot. Like, what am I going to do with these pictures? It's. Also, I think with global warming too, how they're giving us another 10 years maybe before things get really hairy. I think I'm looking at the world. I'm thinking about there's going to be the water's going to move up in New York. We're going to get a little tighter here because we're going to lose some shoreline. That's going to happen in 10 years. There's going to be famine. There's going to be some shortages. That's 10 years. That's not that far away. 12 years.
It's not that far away.
It's going to catch up with us quick. And when it becomes art handling, I know all these people that I move their stuff around. They have a lot of stuff. They're all going to want to move it off the Hamptons, away from the ocean. There's going to be a lot of art being moved in the next 15 to 20 years. A lot of possessions. People are going to move it to high ground. The rich people are. What's going to happen to my work? So I know I got a few years left to go if I'm lucky, but I need to think about I'm not going to be in control of it that much longer. Because it is a difference between having a job and not having a job. It's keeping that space. Because if I don't have any family or anyone else, there's friends and obviously to help me with stuff, but I got to take responsibility for that. And I think that I want to have a long-term plan. I think that's the key. Otherwise it'll end up in a dumpster.
You weren't thinking about this in your 20s when you were doing this stuff.
No, not at all.
No way. You were just hitting it. You were hitting it.
Just knocking them out. And I'm still knocking them out. But I'm also aware that because of the job I do, I'm like, okay, I do have to think about what I'm going to do with them. And so many teachers of mine have not done that well. And Leland Bell had all his work burned up. He was a lot of his work burned in a studio fire because he didn't put it anywhere else. A lot of it was 70% of the work he was doing in his later years is gone. The reason we have so much great Roman art is because they spread it out everywhere. That's why we know so much about the Romans, right? They've spread art everywhere.
Yeah, we're trying to find homes for it constantly.
It's all about pollination. You got to pollinate the world as best you can. So
it also starts. Not to get totally not dour or anything like that, but when you think about it, about the purpose of art. Now we both understand. Now that's a big question. That's but when you think about what art even means to people anymore and how that's even achieved. Now I can't speak for everybody, but I'd love to hear what you're what.
Well, I worry about it too because there's so much imagery coming into us now.
Yes.
How many pictures? And I do it. We all do it. I'm not criticizing anything, but how many pictures of someone's lunch can you look at? Someone might send 100. We all do it, right? It is so.
I don't know if that's art though. But it's an image.
Yeah, but so much imagery.
It's an image. It's an image.
Much
but I don't know.
Visual imagery coming into us. It's very easy for the subtleties of shades of pink to get lost in the main and everything. Whereas we're so inundated with it.
So you're saying, okay, so all right, so weren't we always that? We always had TV since the 50s,
I guess that's
60s.
True. No,
we always had these things coming at us and all. Never more than now. Because now you just pick up your phone and then you have a whole you can do anything you want. I was just looking at MoMA's catalog and going through a virtual tour. When I was in the shower, just playing it through a speaker, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can just imagine the Miro. Okay, cool.
I do that. They have the one with the frick. It's great. I do want the frick.
Yeah, first of all, everybody should do that. Please do this. But when I think of my relation to what the visual medium is and what it means to me, and this is only for me, is that it's food for my eyes, and I need to be aesthetically around obviously things that make me. So when I look around it just makes it's almost like each one is a drug. I don't take any pharmaceutical drugs for mood stabilization, right. But I do need to surround myself. I need to have a tree with blue lights on it.
Right.
Okay, because then I'm less depressed when I wake up. Because if I've been to other people's houses where it's just that the up lighting, that light never gets turned on. Okay, there's always going to be low lighting. I don't care. It's never. But with just only white walls, dude, I become really fucking depressed, and really I get aggressive or weird or anxious. Doctors' offices, hospitals, just all this other. So to me, aesthetic.
Right.
is something, and I think, I mean, you feel the same way. But what about the purpose of art for other people?
No, but something a long time ago, this teacher I had, John Helliker, used to say that he was a communist like in the 30s. He used to draw for that magazine, The New Masses. And
he was hardcore. Yeah.
He was in that, and he used to always say that the audience for painting is very small. He was an old guy when I knew him. Great. Audience for painting is very small. He said it over and over again, and I kind of believe that. I think that to look at paintings, you really do have to look at that space in front of them. Okay. I think that's what that's what you want to look at when you look at a picture. And I think that, I mean, the purpose of it is it's always going to be fun, right? They
for us doing it,
right? Yeah, but also
for people witnessing.
Yes, and also you know what did that de Kooning used to talk about, the flickering glimpse, right? The tiny glimpse of form you see out of the corner of your eye, right? That's what all the aesthetics do. That's when you're walking through a room with your artwork that you like. Okay. You feel that form and that sense of continuity with art, right? I mean, I guess for painters it's visual, it's form, right? Writers is something else, but it's like those little mental touchstones throughout the room that keep you focused on what you're looking for, I guess, right? I mean,
and I'm not saying that people don't love that. I mean, the Met, pre-COVID, Met's packed. Okay,
right.
Pre-COVID, MoMA's packed. Yeah. Okay, I go to the MoMA. I'm a member of the MoMA. I go there. I'm depressed. I go to the MoMA. I don't have to be on drugs, smoke any weed, drink any alcohol. Although that's actually a little bit of weed, a little bit of booze before I go to the MoMA. It's always awesome.
Yeah.
Always. But if you go there, I walk out and I go, I feel better now.
Yeah.
Like everything's better. Yeah. Like I just feel like, okay. Yeah. Because then you come out and you see concrete streets and you see dirt in the gutters and you see oversized trash and then you see homeless people and then you see everybody rushing around not worrying about it. And you go like, whoa, what a whole, this is a whole different thing here. I mean, like, or when you go to the old churches in Western Europe, you say, oh, wow, you look at these images, it shows you God.
Right.
And now that's what a lot of those great Italian painters were doing back in, where they're showing what God could be or what God would be, and it was giving access to just us little peasants, what God could look like, and it was through the painter, and a lot of the choirs and the musicians and the composers as well. But it's just interesting. I want to know what your interpretation. Where does painting even fit now?
It's a good question. It's a great question. Not to get too deep in, but for me, it's the basis of always a good painting. It can be anything, of course, but it's always about a form and space, right? That's the language of painting, in my opinion. Now, of course, it can be anything, of course, and it all has its own validity. But when it gets, what's a good way to put this? You can make really good political art in my opinion, if you base the thing in picture making and form first, because otherwise it becomes something else. And I'm not criticizing that something else, but if you, as a painter, the reason those great Manet paintings of the execution work, because they're really well made pictures, or they form in space,
Right.
And I'm not criticizing political or overtly socially geared artwork, but it doesn't interest me as much. It becomes more of verbal rather than visual.
Yeah, because
it's less fun for me.
Your paintings are out of time, and I was about to say, would there be some kind of message in your work? And when I look at it, I say, I don't know what the message would be. I don't even think.
I just want to dance on the heads of all the other ones that have gone along. I just want to move along. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. A little bit of medieval, a little gothic. Yeah, exactly. Because you can always pick and choose. That's the thing about Picasso, right? He was a great thief. He stole everybody.
Oh no, that guy was all.
He was a great thief. He's the greatest thief, and he's right. You gotta be a thief.
But those guys too, but even Picasso and even before that, and going back to the Impressionists and stuff, they were fighting against a system where you couldn't have nudes unless they were angels or cherubs, right? And then now they're painting just poor people, and it really started with Van Gogh's Potato Eaters, because people were like, why would we even want to look at this? Like, why would we? And that was I would say that was an overtly political painting.
Yeah.
Or Goya's, the executions, Goya's execution paintings, where it's just like the soldiers just executing all the people in Spain.
Right.
It's a beautiful painting, right? And it was wonderfully done, but still, that's political. And then, of course, Guernica, right? The famous Picasso.
It's funny when you wash something through with a painting, right? There's so many crucifixion paintings, but it really is. It is a guy hanging there, and we forget about that. It is someone nailed up there.
It's pretty violent stuff.
It is. You see these paintings. I love the ones that some saint is holding up their own tongue or something.
Yeah, their own head. What is that? I can't remember.
Eyes on a platter. It's fun imagery. But if it's well done, it's always you'll want to look at it for other reasons. When it loses the idea that, oh my God, they killed our friends in execution last night. 200 years later, the form of the picture is still strong enough. It still has a visual force. It might not have the same political force, but it still got its bones, right? It still can punch you in the face. You just don't know what the reason is anymore.
Now, I can't remember. You're going to have to enlighten me right now. But one of the greatest paintings that I love of yours, and I'll describe it, and you'll know it immediately, is when the woman with the bows holding the globes. What is that called again?
Birth of the Zodiac.
Birth of the Zodiac.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I see this one, and it's big, I mean, I was lucky to see it. I think I saw it.
Hang it in your house. You got a perfect wall for it. I need a home.
Hey, if you want to fucking put that in here, I would be more honored. I'll fucking throw this shit out of here. I'll be right here, be perfect, or at least do a photo shoot with it. But I'll get some photographers over. I think I know one or two still left around. But when I look at that one, I go, okay, this is an ode to the world. This is an ode to the muses. So to me, it's not, maybe I wouldn't say you're necessarily political, which I don't think you are. Maybe you are, that I just didn't notice. But no. This was an ode to the muses. This was the creation. Yes, of course, the birth of the Zodiac. But when you look at it, you say like, all right, so here's our little planet. You know what I mean? And here's all these forces that are swirling around it. And the majesty of it.
Yeah, well,
it's such a fucking beautiful representation, and I love that one.
I got that. I wanted to make that picture because there's a small like cigar box shaped piece of artwork in the frick in the back room where I have the little medieval things, and it's like this little casket. I'll put something in it, but it has on one side it has little Greek. It has Roman emperors. It has like pre-Christian ones, and on the other side it has Christian emperors. Roman. Oh, wow. And the Christian emperors have like clouds and blue like sky behind them. You get a sense of like another place. Whereas the Romans, it's just black. You know. Wow. And I just so much more appreciated the black ones, because the dark space, because there was nothing after. Like there might be like afterlife, but chances are it wasn't going to be good, right?
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah. They also you had to deal with like all the different emotions of all the gods, and they might like you, they might hate you, they might spite you, they might just be mean spirited, or they might screw you over for any number of reasons. That seems to be so much more interesting. That's why I wanted to go for the birth of the Zodiac, because that's much more of a full thing than the Christian one, which is such hammered down. Now, having said that, I do the Catholic thing is great. I mean, there's so much smoke and incense in Catholicism.
Yes,
dark things. It's very rich,
especially if you go into the Latin versions of all of that, like the Santeria kind of stuff. Right. Like I've got my Guadalupe over here. You know, what I mean, when you get into that one, you go into that kind of imagery of Catholicism. That's even crazier. It's like reds and greens and incense, like you were saying, and just the death cults, and like it's all about blood, and I mean, and the Spaniards do it as well when they deal with Catholicism.
But each canvas has its own little painting on it.
Wait! You're doing a painting of a
painting of a painting.
Oh, that's like great. That. I love that. That's great. That's
just real fetishy stuff, like the fetish of the studio.
That's
the fetish of the palette, the fetish of the wall, the fetish of the shoe.
Each of them are like infused sexuality. And
but like the sexuality will never be expressed. Yeah, like there's no end to sexual desire that ever be truly expressed. You're always going to want something you can never have.
So cool,
and it'll never be satisfying.
So cool.
And it'll never end. Yeah. It'll always torture you, no matter what. And you have to say, I've accepted the torture. I'm willing to take the torture.
Wow.
I must have it. If you're going to torture me, let's do it.
I mean, have you ever considered teaching, or have you ever considered reaching out to people who are just starting this kind of profession?
I would love to teach. I have a master's, and that's one of the things I would have liked to have done when I was maybe years ago. I feel so old to like try to provide a teaching job now.
I'm looking at you. You're not that old.
But that's something I would tell a younger artist like myself.
Yeah.
You really need to keep the painting at the center, and everything has to radiate around it. Really, you really do. Like it has to be the center of who you are. But you can't make that happen, right? I mean, you have to need it, right? And I think only the person in themselves will know what that is. It's there can't be any goal involved, I don't think, to really do it. You really can't have any goal involved. But you also have to be able to constantly be self-critical. No matter, whenever you think you've got it right, chances are you're going in the wrong direction. Whenever you get a cute mark, whenever you get something that looks just like yours, you got to destroy it.
Wow.
I believe that 100%. Whatever you think you're good at, crush it.
Kill your darlings.
Crush it. And bring it back, and do it over and over and over again, no matter how good you think you are. Whatever sentence you've written, or whatever form of it, kill it, break it up, and do it again. Don't let it own you. You've got to own it. Don't ever trust an art dealer. Okay. Don't ever give them any power over you. I don't care if they're your friend or you think they're going to do something for you. Do not trust them and do not give them any power over you. My feeling was, the mistake I made is I should have been the parody they expected me to be. Difficult, self-centered, and that's what I should have done. I'm not saying I was accommodating, but I was always kind of relaxed and low-key. If I'd have been more difficult, I think I would have gotten further with them.
No shit.
And also, I don't think you should ever trust any kind of art dealer. Always have it on your own terms. Because if they want to show your work, they'll do it. They'll come around to you. Don't ever give them an inch.
You're saying be tougher with these people. Don't try to be.
Don't be friendly. Always assume they're going to. Remember, art dealers usually have 15 or 10 other artists. They're pulling money off all those people. They want to invite you in the circle. You go on your own terms because they'll never satisfy you. They'll never give you what you want. You got to get what you want. Wow. So when it comes to dealing, you got to go in there. Always friendly, and you never know. Of course, you be polite, but I made the mistake of not paying enough attention to it, and I think that I would have gotten a lot. I would have maybe got my work in better other collections if I had been a little more cutthroat about it. No matter what someone says, don't ever give it. If there's a studio available, get the studio. Don't even think about it. Don't ever hesitate to do it. Just do it because
live in your studio.
Right, exactly. Just do it all the time. Even when it's going badly, that's the best time to work. When you can't work and it's going badly, that's when you want to do it. And even when you can't do it, just go in there and show up. My teacher used to always say, and I believe this, when you can't paint and you don't know what you're doing, just stay in the studio. Don't go for a walk. Don't go hang out with friends. Don't go see a movie that's going to inspire you. Do not look for inspiration. That's a mistake. You can always pull open the same 15 books of Dürer, and you're always going to get a kick off that, and that's what you should be doing. Don't go out looking for inspirations where you're not going to find it. You got to be in that studio if you're a studio artist and do it there. If you're a landscape painter, then be out in the landscape, but you're only going to find it doing it. It's not going to come to you.
That's it for this week. I'm Matthew Diabate. You're listening to Kill the Cat Radio, KTCR. More to come next week. So stay curious and have a good night.